Thank you. Good morning. A few months ago, I was working in a fourth grade classroom, and I told my students, I have a secret to tell you. Do you know that the collective energy of your 40 brains is far greater than my one brain? And they were quite shocked, honestly. And I continued to explain, I'm not saying that you're smarter than me, but what I am saying is that the brain power of 40 of you is more than one person alone. I needed to set this foundation for my students because I want my students to know that their thinking and their voice is the most important voice in the classroom, not mine. If we want our students to be agents of their own learning, their thinking and their voice needs to be at the forefront of our operating system. Now, every teacher has an operating system, right? It's the way that things get done in your classroom every single day. So here's an operating system that promotes student agency, that allows the students' thinking and voice to be at the core of everything that we do. 1, everyone prepares a response. Everyone prepares a response. Now, we know that we're supposed to call on non-volunteers, or the cold call, right? We've been trained to do this. But this is beyond that strategy. You know that when you do the cold call on any given day, there's a third of your students still thinking, please don't call on me. I don't know the answer, right? They're still thinking this. So instead, everyone prepares a response means that when I pose a question, nobody raises their hand in my classroom. Everyone prepares their response at whatever level their thinking, knowledge, skill, and background is at. So let's simulate that right here. So what are you hoping to gain from today's summit? What are you hoping to gain from today's summit? Everyone prepare your response in your head. And I'm going to ask you to share, please. And she said, hoping to gain inspiration for returning to the classroom. And would you mind sharing what you're thinking?
Me readjusting back into the classroom.
Okay, a readjustment. All right, thank you. And how about over here, please?
I'm looking for
So the learning, but the connecting to our colleagues and other resource specialists. So what we've done here is, it's simple, right? But it's a game changer when we stop having our students raise their hand to respond, because our operating system is that everyone prepares a response at whatever level their thinking is at. All of a sudden, the student's thinking and voice now becomes the most important voice in the classroom. 2, wait and return. Wait and return. We also know as educators, we're supposed to give our students think or wait time. Right? But let's have a little reality check. When a student doesn't know the answer, what do we usually do? We move on, because we reach this awkward moment and we all begin to feel uneasy, so we move on. We've just communicated to that student, and in fact the entire class, that when you're struggling with your thinking, you're struggling to remember, it's embarrassing, and it's okay to get a pass. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to wait a little longer. We're going to push past the awkward moment day by day with our students until they're not embarrassed anymore and it's not awkward anymore. In fact, my students will say things like, there's plenty of times we don't know the answer at first and we just have to keep figuring it out. We just need some extra time. So after you give that student the extra time, you always return, wait and return. There's no pass in student thinking. There's no pass here. You always return to honor their opportunity to respond. So let's try wait and return. Name the last 5 vice presidents of the United States. No Google searches, no phones here. Name the last 5 vice presidents of the United States. And I'm just going to ask if you wouldn't mind. Go ahead and try, whatever you're thinking, whatever your level of knowledge is. Go ahead, anything?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. Name one, please.
Joseph Biden.
All right, All right, so she said Joseph Biden. I made it a hard question, Joseph Biden. And so as the student struggles in their thinking, and we push past that awkward moment because that's how we do things, we give them time to think. And now, if this was my classroom, I'd say to her, why don't you go ahead and check your notes from the other day about our vice presidents, see what information you can find that helps you to answer the question. I will return to you. Be prepared with your answer. This becomes a cue for the entire class to now look at their notes, find the answer. I don't want them sitting there clueless. I want them to find the answer. And then I move on and I ask someone else. Go ahead.
Vice President Pence, Biden, Cheney, Gore, and Quayle.
All right. And, okay, yes, that's impressive. And then I return. Remember, you always return to give that student an opportunity. So wait means that we're going to set a standard that it's okay to struggle in our learning. That's part of learning. And we always return because there's no pass, because the students know that their thinking is the forefront of everything we do. 3, listen and connect. Listen and connect. We also know that when we call on a student, that there's a few others that are waving their hands in the air because they have something important to say, right? And there are others who have now checked out because you didn't call on them, right? Okay, so I tell my students, from now on, when your classmates are speaking, you're not going to raise your hand. Your job is to listen and connect to their thinking. You're connecting your brain to their brain. It's a brain-to-brain connection, I call it. Remember how I said that the collective brain power of the 40 is greater than the 1? So every time you connect your thinking to someone else, you're multiplying your brain power, right? So let's simulate that here. What do you think is the best way to motivate students? What do you think is the best way to motivate students?
Show them that you are truly interested in them.
He said, show them that you're truly interested in them. And if you had to give what he just said a label or a name, what would you call it? Okay, motivation, all right? And I'm going to ask here, do you think that motivating your students is one of your strengths or something you want to grow in? Or both?
You know what? I feel like it's something that I have been growing in.
Okay, she says that she's been growing in it. Right now what's happening is we're listening and we're connecting the ideas together, right? So when we take this connected, collective thinking, the student voice, the student's thinking is elevated as the top voice. 1, everyone prepares a response at whatever level their thinking is at. 2, wait and return, always return to honor their chance to speak. 3, listen and connect to deepen and extend the understanding. Back to that 4th grade classroom I was in, at the end of the first day, one of the students said to me, you know, I really like not raising our hands all the time because it's less stressful and I can think better and I can hear what others are thinking. I can think better and I can hear what others are thinking. Bingo. That's what I want. If we want our students to be agents of their own learning, let's use an operating system in which their voice and their thinking is elevated and becomes the core of everything we do. Thank you.